to No Mercy is paved with wins and losses. We're going to break them all down this week on Draped in Gold. What's going on? It's Flobo Boyce. We are locked into your one-stop shop for NXT content all around the world, as my broadcast colleague would say, at the world-famous Draped in Gold studio. Speaking of, give it up for the real Jack Farmer.
Glad to be back. You know, a few weeks ago, I started streaming this live to my X account, streaming it live to my Twitch account, and then I took a week off. And there's nothing that people like more than when you take time off right after starting something. So glad to be back. Glad to have that little hiccup in the streaming services, but we're back, baby.
You crater the show. What's going on, Mike Wex? Thanks for coming by. Yeah. So I gotta ask, man. I mean, this week has been kind of quick, right? You got like PLEs and pay-per-views coming at you at the end of the summertime. Is there anyone you're most excited about? Feeling all in? All
Yeah,
out?
you know, it's been you're right, a wild summer. The fun days of wrestling in the summer are definitely back. That's something that I think I probably missed the most, is the summertime fun for a few years there, because something that you've actually kind of illuminated me to is just how fun summer wrestling can be. And I realized most of my favorite memories of pro wrestling occurred during summer broadcast months. But for a few years there, man, it got dark during this time of year. You could tell that wrestling sort of took a vacation, but it's back. There's tons of it going on. And as you alluded to, we've got No Mercy coming up. We'll be talking all about that, but you and I will be covering All In on Wrestling Inc. this weekend. So busy time.
Yeah. And if you like it, great. If you don't, it's fine. No, I'm kidding. I love this too. It's pretty dope to sit down there. Again, in the days of my youth, we would go to my friend who had the hot cable box and watch all the pay-per-views for a low price of nothing. So it was a good time for stealing. It's a good time for everyone.
Yeah, stealing is always a good time for everyone involved.
Smash plus grab, bro. That's how we get down.
I mean, yeah, that's the way I watched most of my shows, to be honest. I mean, as a kid, I can't afford to buy all these pay-per-views every single month, and my parents certainly weren't going to spend that kind of money for me to watch pro wrestling. So that's how you did it back in the day.
Absolutely. Remember Suncoast Video? Even the videos were expensive back then.
Suncoast Video, the good old days.
Throwing it back. Mike Wexler says, will you be making the trip to Colorado for No Mercy this year? The answer is no, because we'll be covering the No Mercy after show. At least I will be. Are you as well? For WrestlingInc.com?
I believe so. I believe I am.
So we're going to be live in our studios covering that. But I would love to go to No Mercy, because last year's No Mercy.
This professional studio paid for by wrestling.
Really? Wow.
And Draped in Gold.
Yeah.
No, not at all. They paid nothing.
They paid absolutely nothing. Why do you promote them? We have no idea. No, I'm just kidding. They're
a hard time to AfterBuzz in their dinky little studio, but man, it'd be nice to have a professional setup again.
I will kill to have a producer saying you're live instead of me hitting buttons. Oh no. Why is it loading all wrong?
Listen, hitting the buttons and managing the chat is a lot more difficult than people give it credit for.
Absolutely. That's right. Respect us, Mike. Okay. Before we get into the shenanigans of the matches here this week, I love the fact that this week's NXT episode opened up with a parking lot attack. Broad daylight, no security. You can't even blame Shadows. Poor Carmen Petrovic got her ass beat at 8:01 p.m. Eastern.
Well, did you see how lackadaisical she was walking into the arena, into the venue? That's her problem.
How is she supposed to walk in? She hasn't even gone to work yet. How is she supposed to walk in?
Look, what you do is you park outside of the parking lot. Then you reach down and you pump up your sneakers so they're nice and pumped up.
Who has those?
You run as fast as you can across the parking lot to get inside. Well, you can't just stroll through there.
Yeah.
Come on, Flobo. You're from New York. That's like going through Central Park in the middle of the night with a big gold chain around your neck. Of course you're going to get attacked.
I would never do that during the day. But listen, look, if you the cameras on you, you got to do the whole I'm having the swag walking in. You watch NBA on TNT. Those guys don't run to the arena. Kind of saunter in, you know?
Yeah, I don't see them saunter through the NXT parking lot either.
Fair.
I mean, look, I'm telling you, Curry would be running through that parking lot if he had to get through there. He wouldn't care about the style.
Yes, Mike says, are pumping up Reebok still a thing? It was never a thing. That was all commercials from the 90s.
Oh, come on.
I was asking for it.
We all pumped.
My dad said no. He drew the line at that. He thought it was a gimmick. I'm dating myself.
Well, your dad is a smart man.
Yeah, I know. He knows the hell what's going on, but he let me buy Beanie Babies as an investment. Listen, the most expensive shoes I buy were a pair of Patrick Ewings. Remember those?
You wore something today if you had a clean pair.
Yeah, I mean, why, Dad, why? Well,
well, you guys are New Yorkers, so Patrick Ewing, I get it.
Yeah, but even then, it was kind of like, so you didn't get Jordans? Allen Iverson was around back then. Like,
yeah.
Patrick Ewings.
We're creating the show, but I was really excited when Patrick Ewing came to the Sonics for a year. Didn't work out, but I was very excited.
That is like a trivia question because you're right. He was like an Orlando Magic and Sonic like 2 weeks each. And it was like, you know what? I'm be done.
Yeah, because I was like Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Good guy.
Is he a hero in New York? Does he have to pay for a drink in New York?
No. So 2 things. 1, he brought the shoe line back last year.
Oh.
And 2, when Jalen Brunson was announced to be the Knicks captain this season, he actually did one of those like video essay things saying congratulations from one captain to another. So everyone's like, yeah, Patrick Ewing, he was a hero.
You know?
Yeah. Get up to Russell Warhala says Max Katz wrestling on bad Ewings for a minute. This is why we're the best show on television.
This is the stuff they don't like to talk about on news shows.
Yeah, hot take, y'all. Because Carmen got her ass beat. And Izzy Dame did not get rewarded with being in the Gauntlet eliminating match, which I think is inconsistent because, to be fair, Lexus King got into the breakout tournament after attacking Trey Bearhill. Deep cut. We have Brilliant Reese in this one. And so it was a no mercy Gauntlet eliminator, which means it was a Gauntlet match, but you could enter the match after a certain amount of time. And the elimination order went from Ariana Rizzo to Brilliant Reese to Kendall Gray with Ren Sinclair, Sol Ruka, leaving Jaida Parker, your number 1 contender for the NXT Women's Championships. Jack, we talked about the star power of Jaida Parker. She looks every bit the part. Is Roxanne Perez overlooking the potential of losing her title at No Mercy?
I hope she's not, because we've been saying that it's Jaida Parker's time. It's been Jaida Parker's time. And this was a matchup. I mean, she came out in at the end. I thought this was a slam dunk for her, talking about Patrick Ewing, bringing it back to the beginning here. Slam dunk, Jaida Parker win here. And Roxanne Perez has, in her very short career, has managed to face a lot of different people and has done a lot of big things. She's got a lot of big wins, had a lot of tough opponents. She ain't ever got one like Jaida Parker, though. Jaida Parker's a whole different ball game, and Jaida Parker is about to start and, I guess, continue what is going to be a legendary career.
Well, we talked about this a couple weeks ago on the show. In fact, if you haven't seen the YouTube channel over at .com/Flobo Boyce, one of the more popular clips was asking you, who do you think or which championship Jaida is more likely to get first? Looks like the NXT Women's Championship is square in her sights. She can probably get it done. She has the tools to get it done. The question I have, if she does happen to win at No Mercy, I know it's not a prediction show, but she does happen to win, is anyone in that locker room keen to peel off of her grip?
Right now, no. No one can beat Jaida Parker right now. Visick in the chat talks about the hot hand. And for our audio listeners, we have a live chat. You should join us sometime. But right now, she is the hot hand, you could say. I don't think she's got too much momentum. She's too strong. No one's touching her, not just in NXT. I don't think there's anyone on planet Earth who's touching Jaida Parker right now. Jaida Parker's unstoppable. And Roxanne Perez, fortunately, she has a little bit of time between now and that matchup to do something to slow down the momentum of Jaida Parker.
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to EJ the Collector. It's good day, gents. Draped Gold is among the best out there. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Tell a friend we need to eat this ad revenue. Look, I will say this. In the match, one person that really impressed me, not so much Brilliant Reese for getting that freebie into the match, but Adriana Rizzo. Here's somebody who was kind of the 3rd or 4th option in her own crew, decided to attack forward to be as up forward as front. She was the first eliminated, but like the fact she was getting a bit of cagey starting off with going up the top rope.
Yeah, I mean, my big standout, Kendall Gray, in this one personally. I thought that she lasted for a long time. She did a great job. This was a good example. I think something we've been waiting for in NXT for the past few months is for the women's divisions to shake out and for us to see sort of where people fit in. And this match really did a good job of showing us where people fit. I thought Brindley Reese did great. I thought Kendall Gray did great. Obviously, the top of the class is Jaida Parker, Sol Ruka, Ren Sinclair in this one. But these other wrestlers, Kendall Gray, Brindley Reese, who are still trying to find their footing, I think they did a phenomenal job in showing that they deserve a shot as the core of this roster.
We'll get to Ren Sinclair in quite a minute. So I saw something on Twitter, X. I didn't put down the person who wrote it, so I apologize. But I thought this is kind of food for thought. Want your opinions on this one? They're saying women's wrestling inside the WWE sphere, so it includes Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, is arguably at its best ever. But this is what I read. Quote, WWE is currently missing Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks out of the 4 horsewomen, and in his opinion, the division has never been better. True or false, in your opinion?
Let me do a quick check of my... I think you got a good point. I think you could make a very good argument about that. And I think that that's a good thing. That's what you want. That's what every generation wants, by the way. You should want the next generation to be better than what you were. So by saying that this is the best it's ever been, I don't think that that's a negative to the 4 horsewomen, by the way. I think that's actually a tip of the cap to the 4 horsewomen and shows how good they did and how the entire division has evolved and the entire women's wrestling has evolved. And they brought in fans who are now growing up wanting to be pro wrestlers. I think it's a huge tip of the cap to them. But you're absolutely right. I think it's always hard when you're talking about best ever and we're being serious about it. It's always hard to compare.
Heartland Storm.
Well, it's hard to compare current to past because I need to see... Jaida Parker hasn't been around long enough. So it's hard for me to compare who she is right now to who Becky Lynch was, because I have that in context. Same thing with Jade Cargill, for instance, still very new to WWE. I need to see how she looks in a full picture. But I look at the star power. I look at the talent. Absolutely, you could make the argument that this is the best it's ever been.
I'm inclined to agree, not to knock the 4 horsewomen, but rather it's the class they're around, right? I feel like the athleticism from people who may not even be considered top tier now is still the floor is higher than it was a generation ago. Not to knock anybody, not for any reason, just think that there's more time offered, more compelling storylines offered, so we're seeing more character work. It's just a better time now. A lot of times people our age go, oh man, the Attitude Era was the best era of wrestling. And I tell you, go back and watch those 2000 SmackDowns. It was rough. 90-second matches, like characters were off the wall. I mean, I loved it too as a preteen, but you got to acknowledge it's a lot better now. So,
oh yeah, I think that, and by the way, in general, I think this is everything, not just pro wrestling. You got to learn to say goodbye to the past. You got to learn to say, just because you were at a certain age when something happened doesn't mean it was the best. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but especially in athletics, athletes get better. I always say the athletes of today are better than the athletes of yesterday, and the athletes of tomorrow are going to be better than the athletes of today. So when people talk about this person was the greatest basketball player, greatest football player, I'm always like, look, man, the one playing today is probably better. That's just how it goes.
Wow. Mic drop. But this leads me to... This brings us to this week's general manager pick'em. What happened when Jack leaves the show? We go off the rails. This one's kind of early here. I'm talking about the present versus the past versus the future. We had a tag team match player, Hank and Tank, taking on the OC. Remember them? The Good Brothers, if you will. And even though Hank and Tank were the hard underdogs, they get the win clean as a whistle. Question for you, General Manager Jack Farmer, because I'm asking you a question unless you are leading the NXT brand. Dana White has no qualms, no scruples, or no compunction of letting fighters go if the win-loss record isn't strong. Do you cut the OC if you were the GM?
No. I get where the question's coming from, but this is a team with history. This is a team that knows how to bounce back. They do have a terrible win-loss record currently. You're absolutely right. But this is a team that knows how to bounce back, and they're a very dangerous team that can play on all levels. You could put them in a championship match on NXT. You could trade them to one of the main rosters. I wouldn't just cut these guys. There's way too much value in the OC.
Wow. Even Booker T was not impressed of how Hank and Tank won that match. He goes, oh, that's it. I'm like, dang, you gotta make them look good. But they got the win. You're Hank, you're Tank. What happens now? Match number 2. Do you rest on your laurels a bit? Do you do more cookouts? If you're them, how do you say hype?
Biggest win of their career. Very excited for them. They should be happy. They looked happy. Everyone came out to celebrate with them. But now this is where they need to understand that the pro wrestling business, the story never ends. So you got the win. Good morning. Hope you hit the gym. Hope you got right back to the grind. You don't get to celebrate. You don't get to rest on your laurels. Hopefully they're back at it and know that that OC probably not too happy with how that turned out. Probably not done with them. But Hank and Tank, as far as this week goes, very, very deserved win and very excited for them.
Got to give up for Don Stas. He says, Hank and Tank reminds me of Otis Dojovic and Tucker Knight of Heavy Machinery. What about that? That's a deep cut there.
Oh, Heavy Machinery were fantastic. Those were good days. Yeah. But yeah, hey, look, if they're in that same vein, then they're going to be pretty darn successful because Otis is still doing very, very well for himself.
He should have won the Money in the Bank just to troll everybody. It was the pandemic time. I would allow it. But yeah, I thought the match was pretty cool. I was literally writing the notes. Well, try as it might, Hank and Tank lost a match. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, coming at all, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have the matches. So many people, they talk about how predictable certain things are, or they'll say that there's no way this team can win. That's why you play the game. That's why you have the match. Hank and Tank, huge win. If I'm them and I'm trying to figure out what to do next, I try to keep that momentum going and I book another big time matchup against somebody, maybe against Chase U, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, but I mean, that could put you in line for a title shot. I think that Hank and Tank need to continue rolling.
Well, you're wrong. You're talking about it right now. Chase U is now the new tag team champs of NXT, and it's feeling themselves. But you know what? Nathan Frazer and Axiom goes, yeah, you kicked our butts. You bashed our faces in. You made us look like a bunch of amateurs, but we want another rematch because we didn't have that in our contract. Whatever. Chase U says, okay, face our B team, which is kind of messed up for Duke Hudson. But yeah, Nathan Frazer and Axiom get the dub over Riley Osborne, the former Josh Morrell, and Duke Hudson, putting them in the shot to have a rematch at No Mercy. Jack, walk me through this. Heavy's head that wears the crown or the college, may I say?
Yeah, Riley Osborne at one point was the wrestler of NXT Draped in Gold for us. We were going to cheer for him throughout the year and see how he did. And hey, it worked out pretty well for him.
We're visionaries.
We're visionaries, sometimes revisionaries. We have to change out Shakespeare.
It's the next t-shirt, by the way.
So now I'm happy for Chase U. They got the win, but how interesting it is, Flobo, how quickly things turn. This was a team that was all about doing whatever it takes, always ready for a fight, ready to prove yourself. Go team, go. Suddenly, Rich Holland is like, hey, you need to get through these other guys before you get to me. Suddenly, we're putting in roadblocks. Suddenly, Rich Holland is using the school to protect him. I like it, Rich Holland. This is the smartest thing you've done in a long time.
You thought he was the dumbest guy ever. Well, now he's smart.
Bring evidence against you to the courtroom and give it to the opposing lawyer. That's what you used to do. But now you're understanding how the game works. Rich Holland finally starting to click for me. I think Rich Holland has a bright future if he continues to learn from Chase U.
In all seriousness, I was talking to Emily May over at the Wrestling Inc. after show at NXT last night about Rich Holland. Here's somebody who's going to be wandering. He retired. He came back. He was kind of on a loose cannon. He's falling in line. He's found a new family with Chase U. And it looks like things are good in paradise for the school. Quasi-college has unaccredited, whatever. But if you're Rich, you got to think to yourself, maybe there's something else that you have to do over the horizon. Is a ticking time bomb. Are you waiting for Rich Holland to say, nah, screw you guys, super kick party?
No, Rich Holland, he figured it out. He's got a school to protect him. He's got championship gold. He's making money on that. He's also collecting all of these people's tuition as they're paying this money for this unaccredited school, collecting all of Duke Hudson's money, collecting all of Riley Osborne's money, collecting all of Thea Hale's money, all the other nobodies who show up in the ring with them whenever they're partying and celebrating. Rich Holland is about to be very rich. I'm going to call him Rich Holland very soon. And he's a champion. I think this is fantastic for him. I do think Duke Hudson, though, he's got a mean streak coming, Flobo. You notice this guy seemed like he's fighting bigger lately.
Don't distract the fact you said Rich Holland. I hate plays on words, first of all. Don't do that. Don't make dad jokes happen.
That one was clever.
No, it wasn't. I had it. Nope, had it. But yes, Duke Hudson. I mean, look, you imagine you were the guy that was the outlaw in your poker room, and you were the guy that came in and became the MVP, and someone just took your stick at work. Hey, there's plenty of times where I had a job when I was the guy from Brooklyn to the point they called me Brooklyn, and some other guy from Queens walks in and ruins the whole vibe. I'll be mad too.
Yeah, well, I mean, Queens, that represents New York. Brooklyn, I don't know.
Hey, I will put you off the show. Please don't go. I need you, Jeff.
But I mean, I think Reggie Rich is doing really good things. But I also like where Axiom and Frazer are at now. This is a different team than they used to be. Now that they've lost something, they got their focus back. I think they were playing with house money before, and so they were getting a little cocky, going after singles gold and all this stuff. Now they're hungry. Now they're desperate. Now they're dangerous. This is the best I've ever seen Axiom and Frazer.
I do hope they have a chance for that tag team gold. I've said it plenty of times in the show. I think Axiom is destined to really be the main roster emblem of Lucha Libre Wrestling, even though you have other options on the main roster. But that's just me. The Masked Man from Madrid, I'm still rooting for you to go solo. But that said, you can't knock the fact they have chemistry with Nathan Frazer as well. Shout out to Wheel Off Stud, by the way. He's in the chat. Elsewhere, I think that, to me, my favorite part of the evening programming was this. The NQCC promo, Heritage Cup in hand, Ren Sinclair calling it the Ren QCC, quarter pounder with cheese. It's fine. It looked like nothing can stop them. But Oba Femi came out, and to me, I thought there was going to be a tease of the unification of the North American Championship and the Heritage Cup. But Tony D'Angelo, a man on the mission, gets himself involved as well. Ava already made the match. No Mercy is going to be Tony D'Angelo and Oba Femi for the North American Championship. But walk me through all of this. North Quarter Catch Crew, Red Sinclair, Oba coming out, exerting his dominance, Tony D'Angelo trying to get some gold back in his camp, my friend.
Well, I want to say first off that anyone who doubted the leadership of Ren Sinclair,
I did,
really has to understand that they were wrong at this point. First off, the way she took charge in that promo, and look, the biggest thing about being a leader is understanding when you make a mistake. Is understanding when you did something wrong. If you don't understand when you make mistakes, you can't lead people. And the way
you're wrong all the time, Jack. This whole show is about you being wrong. What are you talking about?
A leader of podcasters. When Ren Sinclair apologized after Oba Femi came out, I think we all understood that she knew she made a mistake and she apologized. She owned up to it and she helped navigate her team away from Oba Femi. Now, I am looking forward to Oba Femi versus Tony D'Angelo. Oba Femi, I said before, unstoppable. No one's beating this guy. He's going to kill you. Tony D'Angelo maybe figured out how to play the big man. He planted him here this evening, Flobo, and I don't think I've ever seen someone so quickly and so easily dominate Oba Femi.
Well, let's put that North American Championship and possible merging with the Heritage Cup aside for a second. Tony D'Angelo is somebody I'm not going to go in a dark alley with. I'm not going to hang on the parking lot with the guy. He looks tough. He turned the Chicago outfit, bada boom. But here's a guy talking about win-loss records who really didn't do much. He was a Heritage Cup champion. He had 2 defenses and lost it, and also lost at Stand and Deliver. How does he instantly become the #1 contender? And don't say beating up the champion. We got to do better than that here in NXT.
The fact that he did it outside of the parking lot, I think, says something. Plus, I mean, look at that.
You're supposed to do it outside the parking lot. You're supposed to fight people in the ring.
And that suit, some people, they like the pinstripes, but not Tony D'Angelo. He likes the big old paintbrush stripes, thick stripes. That's the kind of man he is.
The Mento stripes?
Doesn't go for the pinstripes. He wants you to see the stripes and know what's going on. Who else could stand up to Oba Femi? If we did general manager pick him, but you got Tony D'Angelo flattened the North American champion just now,
right?
Who else? Who else do you put in there with Oba Femi that's not just going to get murdered?
So let me ask you a question then. Carmen Petrovic got attacked in the parking lot, and Izzy Dame did not get rewarded with being in the gauntlet eliminator. But you're saying Tony Angelo gets to be number 1 contender for beating up Oba Femi because it happened inside the ring? Is that the only difference?
The difference is the person that got beat up here. I mean, who on the pull up the roster? Pull up, and when I say the roster, I mean the WWE roster. Go on, man. Who are you picking? You're the general manager. Right. Who do you put in the ring with Oba Femi that has a prayer against that guy? Nobody. Right. Except there's one person who showed they might stand a chance. That's Tony D'Angelo. Ava's backed into a corner here. You know I like to disagree with Ava, but I mean, what else is she going to do here?
You only disagree with Ava because you can't disagree with William Regal anymore. That's
William Regal, a true general manager.
I hate this. Because when he was GM, you wanted him gone so bad. Now it's
a man who didn't need a window in his office.
Yeah,
all he needed was a pair of brass knuckles on the desk and his word to make things happen.
Didn't need ventilation at all. I get it. I totally get it. But to answer your general manager pick him, you're right. The North American title division kind of inverse with the women's side. There really isn't many people there. So I'm not opposed to Tony Angelo. He deserves an opportunity. I just feel it's kind of suspicious. And he just comes out, beats up the champ and goes, well, gets number 1 contender now. Why even have matches? Why have tournaments? Just beat up the champ. You have a chance to go out for a match.
Well, I don't think the line of people who want that match with Oba Femi is very long. I think it was kind of, I think someone's got to get picked for it. I think that's the difference. I think if this was a match against, I think if someone did this to say Ethan Page, yeah, there's a lot of people in line for that one. I think Oba Femi cleared that contendership line out, and I don't think a lot of other people want to be in that line. So I think you do what you got to do. But as far as combining these championships, I love my Heritage Cup. I do. I think that's probably the best thing to combine them, but I would be very sad.
Yeah. So just got a shout out to Ricky Sinclair, who does mention the point the past couple of weeks, Oba Femi and Tony D'Angelo have been taking turns of interrupting each other's backstage time. I'm with that, 100% with that. But I'm just saying, how do you qualify to be number 1 contender these days? If there's tournaments and eliminators and gauntlets, and then you can just beat up somebody, why do the tournaments? Just opt out then. Just be like, you know what? I'm just going to beat up Ethan Page. How about that?
I mean, it works.
You're right. If it works.
Also,
matter of method if it's working, right?
By the way, Flobo, easier said than done. Let me ask you this. You got to get through 7 other people in a tournament, which means, you got to win 1 gauntlet match.
Right.
Or you got to put Oba Femi on his back.
Right.
Which one's easier?
I would take the tournament.
I would take the tournament personally.
Hey, fair enough. And I do hope the winner of this particular feud will somehow combine with the Heritage Cup, like you were saying before. You and I are best like supporters of that cup. Maybe it was the fact that it was in London. It had a little slow like pans in the championship. It felt like it was something to earn. It was a secondary title at NXT UK. But ever since moving over to NXT Prime or US, it does feel like an afterthought. Reminding us of the rules makes it feel more complicated than it needs to be. Maybe it's time for the Heritage Cup to go. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think the Heritage Cup does require an investment of time, an investment in educating the fans, an investment of a division. And NXT, I think, is a very busy show, and I don't think it has a lot of space for that investment. And that's probably the biggest issue.
You just hate heritage. You just want Walmarts and Starbucks everywhere.
Is that not heritage?
It's not my heritage.
The Cold Stone Creamery doesn't count.
Yes, it does, man. That's a high cold. That's payday ice cream. When you get paid, we're going to Cold Stone, baby. Put all the Nixon in that.
Cold Stone hits, man.
It does. I'm not even mad. That's why I backed off. Let's talk about someone who should have backed off. It was Ashante the Adonis had a match with Dion Lennox backstage for weeks. It looks like Ashante was trying to make himself known with the women of the NXT roster. They were gravitating towards Dion Lennox and his glasses, but Ashante felt a lot of it slighted. Inside the ring, it was Adonis with the victory, but it looks like Dion may have won the war.
I mean, Ashante, let's be honest, like he's the one walking around with a whole gaggle around his arms. He's somebody that he's doing just fine outside of the ring. But when you look in the ring, I mean, he's just smooth, man. He's smooth in the ring. His words are smooth. And come on,
Ashanti smooth.
You gotta have
Ashanti Giannis.
A certain level.
Hold on, the artist woman knows to Hootie Miles is smooth.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
Smooth with like 5 O's.
Oh, that's a whole different level.
But look, tell me, you got to be a certain kind. You got to have a certain level of charisma, of confidence. You got to have a certain level of just self-awareness to be using a super kick to win matches in NXT right now.
Wow.
I think Ashanti the Adonis, he knows who he is. And I think that he is someone who knows where he wants to go and doesn't care what feathers he ruffles along the way. Lennox clearly passes the eyeball test, clearly has a future, clearly an athlete, but Ashanti the Adonis has been around for a while, and this win from Ashanti did not surprise me.
Is it really a statement win if the person you're trying to show a lesson to is not even concerned about learning a lesson? Look, Deion Lennox was like, okay, I lost. Back to work, back to the gym. I'm going to try my best next week. And Ashanti's like, yeah, that's right. I put that rookie down. Yeah.
I mean, Lennox is always there to learn a lesson. He's got the big glasses on. They talk about how educated he is. He's there to learn.
But, okay. All right. Okay. If you're a general manager here, is it rematch city, or is the young going to go somewhere to the direction, or what do you think the next chapter is going to be if you're Ashanti the Adonis after getting the win?
Well, I think Ashanti is someone who needs to move up in the ranks here. Ashanti got the win. There's no reason that Lennox didn't earn a rematch. Lennox is new, so no hard feelings for getting the loss, but you lost. Why are we getting you a rematch? You don't have a history that you can back up that loss on. I think that Lennox needs to go back to facing someone else who's also still getting their feet wet in NXT. Ashanti, though, I want to see Ashanti move up and have some matches, maybe looking to get into that Heritage Cup championship on his own.
I like it. Moving up, being a rookie. You know who doesn't like rookie? Your girl, Fallon Henley. She's in a new group, and a new group has a name. It's not Toxic Attraction. It's Fatal Influence. Showing our manifesto alongside JC Jane and Jasmine Nix, who's also a rookie. And they tried really hard to tell me why I should like this rookie over the other ones. But okay, thoughts about the group?
I love this group, and I love what they're about. I don't know how anyone could look at this group and have negative thoughts. It's a couple of athletes who have done everything to get to where they're at, who love pro wrestling, who love the pro wrestling business. We talk about how people take buses to get to practice. Hey, they go to dirty gyms and they're scrambling to get booked. They're working as hard as they can to get where they're at. And now, after years of expertise, they want to share with the next generation. This is what it's all about, Flobo, is sharing with the next generation and working hard and loving what you do, not just because you got a bunch of followers, but because you love it, Flobo. And that is something that I think every single person in the pro wrestling industry should rally behind. Fatal Influence, I think, role models.
Oh, okay. I got a question for you. It looks like Fallon Henley, I'm not sure where she's built from. I think she's built from Florida, but had a bit of a country twang that's evolved over time. But last night, it feels like she is trying to align herself aesthetically with JC Jane and Jasmine Nix. Is that a right direction if you were Fallon, or would you do something else?
Well, I think it's a selfless direction. I think that she's someone who's trying to give back to the industry. And that's why she's trying to talk to these rookies, these greenhorns, as I think the kids call them.
No, they don't. No kid. It's worse than the parodies and play on words. I hate it.
I think that they're trying. Jasmine Nix trying to learn from people, I think is just really smart. Jasmine Nix has such a great career ahead of her because she's willing to learn from the people who have put in the time and the effort, and she's not resting on the fact that she has a lot of followers.
I don't know how you get to be on so many groups' payrolls. Donde Está says this faction name is way better than the Pure Fusion Collective or whatever. I have to agree. I'm not really sure if what Pure Fusion Collective is referring to, by the way, but like fatal influence sounds like you shouldn't listen to them, but they want you to listen to them, right? Like, why would they call something they're bad?
Well, it is a better name, and it's because it does mean something. If you listen to the promo, Flobo,
I tried not to.
instead of judging
Nope.
right
I have
away,
my agenda. I'm sorry. I'm already a hater.
so instead of putting your spin on it,
Please, gladly, yes.
What they're trying to do is to take the people who are in WWE because they have a lot of influencers and teach them that it's about the business. It's about wrestling. It's about the love of the game. It's about the grind. It's not about the number of followers you have. So if you're someone who hangs your hat on being an influencer, it's going to be very fatal for you because of this group.
Moving on.
Analysis.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I'm spinning it. Evil wrestlers are evil. Speaking of Wendy Choo, who's I'm not sure if she's undead or just really likes emo music, or I'm not sure what her deal is, but she had a match against Lola Vice because Lola Vice wanted to stand up to Wendy Choo, and it looked like Lola Vice was going to get the win. But Kalani Jordan gets involved, and well, all hell broke loose. Kalani Jordan has a number one contender opponent in Wendy Choo, and Lola Vice is suffered with the loss because she was distracted. This one here has become a huge dust up in the women's North American title division.
Well, I want to first make sure we understand that this is a big win for Wendy Choo. This was, I mean, Lola Vice, former number one contender, someone many people thought could have been the champion. Big win for Wendy Choo. But the story to me here is that Kalani Jordan's reign of terror continues.
Terror?
Terror. What would you call it?
She just wrong place, wrong time?
So first off, let's rewind it a bit. First off, Tatum Paxley, enjoying her own hobby, has some collectibles. Show people, hey, check out my collectibles. I'm a big fan.
She never said those words. She never said check out my collect ever.
Well, if people listened, I'm sure she'd have gotten there. But instead, Kalani Jordan was throwing them around, making fun of her, calling her a weirdo. By the way, remember there's multiple times that Kalani Jordan grabbed one of the collectibles and threw it and tried to break it like a kid having a temper tantrum. Now, what does Wendy Choo love? She loves naps. She loves sleeping.
I guess.
What's the first thing Kalani Jordan does when she sees Wendy Choo? Grabs her pillow and starts ripping things out of it. Why can't people just have things they love, Kalani Jordan? You have your championship. Everyone's happy for you. You're a great champion. I want to support you, Kalani Jordan. Why are you continually trying to destroy the things other people love? I just don't get it, Flobo.
You mean to tell me in a situation where Tatum Paxley has actual figurines of her opponents and people on the main roster, her co-workers, and a world where Wendy Choo hasn't said a word in weeks, but looks like she's the undead. It's Kalani Jordan with the reign of terror. Kalani Jordan's the one that's going to be invading your nightmares. Kalani Jordan's the one that should be stopped.
Flobo, I need you to think about this for a second.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Tatum Paxley collects figurines and action figures and toys.
She works
for the WWE. Of course she has figurines that look like her co-workers. That is the collectible. Of course. What do you mean?
Let me be honest with you. Do you have an action figure of me? Do you have an action figure of me at home? Do you have an action figure of George Hermosa or Glenn Rubenstein at home? If you do, let me know now, you weirdo. Because
I have Glenn Rubenstein and I have George Hermosa. I didn't really need yours. Wasn't worth that much.
Yeah, I understand. It's not really collectible. But my point is, you still wouldn't have your coworker stuff around you all the time. That's weird.
I mean, that's what you're collecting. That's exactly what they're making. That's what you collect. I mean, it's like Wolverine finds a guy who collects comic books and is like, you have Wolverine comics? That's weird. Yeah, that's what he's collected.
There are no Wolverine comics where the Wolverine's around. He's a fictional character, unless he's in another dimension, which is kind of weird.
In the movie Logan, Wolverine did see an X-Men comic, so...
Nerd. Anyway.
And now, Wendy Choo, you think she's weird because she doesn't talk? She's shy. She should be. She's got Kalani Jordan running around making fun of people for having hobbies.
In any event, Wendy Choo gets the win. But where does Lola Vice go from this? Because she was pretty much in control, but she has the loss.
Yeah, I think she needs to take it out on Kehlani Jordan because you're right. Lola Vice did have this one in the bag until Kehlani Jordan decided she needed to get involved in the middle of this matchup.
I if you're listening to me right now, this is what I have to deal with every single week. Kehlani Jordan is a sweetheart, a nice role model, but somehow Jack thinks she's a terror person running around backstage of NXT. So
listen, I'm a fan. I keep saying I'm a fan of her. I want to root for her. She's a fantastic champion, a fantastic athlete, but she's just got this bully inside of her that she just can't help but terrorize people.
let's talk about bullies before I get really upset. Jack, no, I'm just kidding. Our main event, actually, it was the triple threat #1 contenders match for the NXT Championship. And so the NXT champion, All Eagle Ethan Page, was on commentary. Booker T did not sing the song. Wesley against Pete Dunne against Joe Hendry. Every man has a claim to the prize, especially Joe Hendry's history with Ethan Page, but Joe Hendry eventually getting the win. But a lot of things to pull from this. Wesley gets attacked by the Rascals. That is something that's going to be developing in the next couple of weeks. And Pete Dunne called himself the baddest man in NXT once more, but still that championship eludes him. Jack Farmer, this one here was a car wreck. If there ever was one, walk me through it.
I am so proud of our NXT champion. I'm so proud of Ethan Page, and I'm so proud of what he has been able to do as champion. And this week, probably one of the most proud moments I've ever been of him. The way he got involved to defend the NXT championship from outsiders, from people who don't belong in the NXT championship conversation, from TNA people trying to come over and take the spots of NXT wrestlers. Ethan Page, the way he did everything in his power. Of course, Trick Williams trying to manipulate the situation, trying to manipulate these people who are trying to invade NXT.
Okay.
It was a bit too much for him to overcome. But Ethan Page is really a champion that I think we'll look back on in the history books as someone who loved NXT more than anybody else.
Disagree. But that said, he has to go through Joe Hendry at No Mercy. And there's a possibility then an outsider, by your estimation and logic, will be the next NXT champion. Here's a question for you, though. If you're Ethan Page, you look for backup, or do you believe in your abilities so much, All Ego, that you wouldn't have to?
He shouldn't have to. I mean, he should have Ava making sure you don't have these interlopers coming in and trying to usurp what has been built as one of the greatest brands in pro wrestling by getting involved. I mean, you have this guy you talk about who deserves title shots and things. Joe Hendry is not even on the roster, you know? And for that measure, Pete Dunne isn't even on the roster. Wes Lee was robbed. Wes Lee, someone who is all about trying to be the very best in the world, was robbed tonight. And you know what happened at the end there? I think just proves my point. You can't trust these TNA people. The way Zachary Wentz came running in and attacking Wesley. Why wasn't security there? That wasn't an NXT superstar. Someone needed to kick that guy out of here.
Security was in Jaida Parker line for extra security then. But there's a question.
Oh, there's not enough security for that.
Yeah, I know, right? 3 months
you gotta let
ago,
it go. You got
you
know,
sometimes it's
sometimes
like the Wild West.
You got to chop off the arm to save the body, and I think you just got to chop off the parking lot. There's no saving it.
It's a bunch of signs, you know. But 3 months ago, you sat there on your high perch and lauded NXT for having Jordan Grace come on over to fight for the NXT Women's Championship, and now you're like interlopers.
It's fine if you have a fun, interpromotional matchup that makes sense, and that did. And Jordan Grace has been very respectful about it. She's been very professional about it. She wasn't out here using AI to put Booker T into music videos against his will.
He did not do that.
And against his wishes. I hope there's legal action being taken by Booker T on this, by the way. Probably why Booker T probably the reason why he doesn't want to sing along, because, geez, he might end up doing background vocals in the next video. And, I just, I think Joe Hendry is someone who is clearly not someone you can trust, clearly not someone you can believe in.
Okay. All right. I like it. I guess. Sort of. That said, we have ourselves a little bit of a jam going on. Jack, you're right. Yeah, I see. What's the shifty eyes going?
I'm upset about.
Oh,
I'm upset about TNA. I'm upset about them invading my home team, NXT. I don't think they would like it, Flobo, if NXT rolled up to one of their shows and just started getting involved in their championship matches. Maybe, what we should do is
Riley Osborne. He's literally doing that this week.
No, I mean, we should attacking their guys after a grueling matchup. I think that's what they should do. NXT Ava, rally the troops. I think you need to send a strong force down to NXT. Send Tony D'Angelo and the guys down there. Break some kneecaps. Send Oba Femi over to TNA. I mean, I would say send our champion, send Ethan Page, but Ethan Page would never be seen in TNA.
Yeah, never. That said, I'm kind of disappointed because I would love to have seen Ethan Page versus Pete Dunne, but Trick Williams would be a match in itself. So this main event was pretty strong. And yes, it's for those who are watching right now. Next week's episode of NXT is taped, so we'll have that as well. But I haven't seen it because spoilers are for losers. But before we wrap this up, it's now time for a little thing we call burning questions. There were some things I saw this week on the show. Maybe I want your insight on. You can help me out with this.
Yeah.
Well, backstage, it looked like Sean Spears and Malik Blade and Idris Enofe got into a little bit of a verbal tussle that turned physical. Sean Spears, what's he doing right now, man?
I'm a huge fan of Idris Enofe and Malik Blade. I support them. I've been one of their biggest cheerleaders, but it's just not cool to gang up and beat up a guy backstage, guys. You're better than that, and I think you both owe Sean Spears an apology.
It's NXT, man. That's all that happened. It's the Wild West, man.
I did not see that. It was not in a parking lot. If it's
okay.
in a parking lot, fair game. Look, fair game. I'll get
no security there, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's they sent security out there, but security never returned.
They never. It's a big portal. I didn't really get that satisfaction with the matchup yesterday, but I love the exchange that Ethan Page had with Pete Dunne versus being a champ, and how Pete Dunne's always been falling short of being the NXT champion, but he's been, in my opinion, still the best UK champion. Will Pete Dunne ever become NXT champion, or is that something that we have to say, you know what, sell that stock now?
I certainly hope so. I think that he's someone who he is in many ways NXT. Like maybe it's because the NXT UK time, but he's just always been there, and I think he's earned it. I think he's talented enough. I'd love to see Pete Dunne as champ.
Yeah, backstage, it was a real kind of an odd exchange with Ren Sinclair letting Javon Evans hold the Heritage Cup, and Gallus showing up, and Gallus was like, "Hey, look, well, hell, take us out, buy us some beer, and we'll teach you how to be a wrestler." And he's like, "I'm 20 years old, fam. I don't do that." But Javon Evans and Gallus, why, man? Why?
That's what. Yeah, rookies, they just don't get how you're supposed to treat veterans. And yeah, Javon Evans should take them out for some drinks. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the right thing to do. And Cedric Alexander trying to protect him from that isn't doing him any favors, long term.
But Javon is underage. He can't. You literally cannot.
I'm underage. I can't drink beer. I do.
You can't buy beer either, Jack.
I can't do it.
I'm not going to touch that because I want to lose our all ages rating. And lastly, here's a kind of a cool exchange. After Lexis King told Jakara Jackson in Last Legend she is their meta 2, Ora Mensa made a very interesting comment and said things haven't been the same since Noam left. Did you pick up on that? What's that mean for metaphor?
That's just how he says Noam went to go get healed up from his injuries. Noam's coming back. Metaphor is unbreakable.
Do you really believe that? This could be the end. With no Noam, looks like they're pretty much fine. They're being featured every week. They're having matches every week. Last Legend's the best worker for career. Do they still need Noam Dar?
I can't lose hope. Flobo.
All right, Hawkeye. Don't give me hope. All right, fine, whatever. I mean, I'm fine with it. Not to think I don't want to see Noam Dar back, but I'm okay if Noam Dar comes in and does something else when he returns.
Noam Dar is one of my all-time favorites, so I just want Noam Dar back.
Really, like current favorites, like all time, like
all the way from the moon,
Goldberg, Noam Dar, like.
I mean, ever since NXT UK, I loved him. You know what? He needs to go get his old pal back, Shaw Samuels, and they need to start running the table, start making some bets. That's what I'd love to see.
I'm talking about all time. Shaw Samuels will always be whatever. Like two of our best bits on that show, when we covered that show, was him changing his name in the middle and him coming back all ripped after having a baby. You're like,
yeah,
dang.
Those were two moments, but we can't relive it. But folks, I mean, you got to find it where somewhere on the network, I can't remember what episode it was, where he debuts on NXT and they give him a name. And he's like, no, I'm not taking the WWE name. This is my name. I'm going by Shaw Samuels in the middle of the match. It's the weirdest thing. But you're
this is why I missed the network, because you can put in Ed Harvey and it will come up. But now it'll be like season 12 of NXT UK from this. Peacock is weird. I hate Peacock.
Yeah, he walks out. It says Ed Harvey on the bottom of the screen. The ring announcer's like, introducing Ed Harvey. And then he starts beating up the other guy. My name's Shaw Samuels. It's not Ed Harvey.
And that's it. And like no one references Ed Harvey ever again. They're like, I guess it's right.
Look, you see someone do that. I'm not calling him that name. I mean,
heck no.
You have to imagine it's like if Gunther was like in the middle of his first match was like, that's not my name, and started beating people up, and then something that no one ever called him Gunther again. You'd be like, whoa,
whatever you want, Dieter. That's your name now. Okay. All right, Hans. They're like, hey.
Well, but also him coming back ripped was more of a show for us. We were just gushing over this guy.
I mean, Jack is a thigh guy. And, I love guys who have gains. That's just something we can say. We're comfortable with who we are.
Yeah,
before we get out of here. Now time for our favorite segment of the show. It's the MVP of NXT. Oh, the MVP of NXT, where I get to ask who was the one that stuck out for you, Jack. You can't pick Shaw Samuels, but it could be an individual, it could be a tag team, it could be a GM.
Shaw Samuels, the asterisk in always MVP to me. But this MVP is one that, when we think about it, really did have the best week. Really was the MVP. And that's Charlie Dempsey, because he stared Oba Femi in the face and it looked like his life was about to come to an end. And somehow, some way, a light from heaven shined down and he dodged that bullet and does not have to worry about Oba Femi, at least for the immediate future. Charlie Dempsey, you saved yourself. You stared death in the face and you laughed and you left and you're still alive, baby. Charlie Dempsey, MVP of NXT.
On a show where we have NXT tag women's champion and men's champion #1 contenders settled, you go with Charlie Dempsey.
Has anyone else stared Oba Femi in the face and walked away completely unscathed without fear of retribution?
Doesn't sound like me at all. No, I wouldn't do that. But I guess I had Joe Hendry in my notes. I mean, he got the CWC behind him, but I guess it pales in comparison to a guy who stared down somebody else.
It's not the MVP of TNA. It's MVP of NXT.
It was on NXT. It was on NXT.
On the team.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind next time you give it to some like TNA guy. Like, wait a minute. You said Joe Hendry's on the team.
I would never give the award to a TNA person.
This prestigious award, we do it every week.
It's a very big honor.
It's not. Yeah, thank you for rocking with us on Draped in Gold. And if you listen to the audio version on Spotify or Apple, give us 5 stars, give us a review. We read the reviews, help us make this the best show on the planet. Jack Farmer, you're a guy who's super busy. What are you up to these days? How can someone book you for something?
Well, you can visit me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. You can also check me out at jackcfarmer.com to see some reels and all that other good stuff. You want to see what I'm working on. Also, if you're watching this show on my Twitch or on my X account, hit the reshare button so you can share it with the world. They can see that. But yeah, I would love for, I know you guys over at WWE are watching right now. So put us on your pre-show. I think Flobo and I would do a bang-up job helping to introduce something like No Mercy, one of your bigger shows, or put us on. Look, you got Raw Talk, you got After SmackDown. You need an After NXT show. Give us a call. We're the guys to do it. The best in the game, hands down, top 100 Apple Podcasts. That's undeniable. That's math. We're the best.
That's a dope promo. But I can just imagine the show being played at like the break room and go like, look at these guys here. Who has a podcast at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday?
Two guys at 9 to 5s.
Exactly. Look at me, Ma. I don't want to go to a law school. I'm doing a wrestling podcast.
I could have been a dentist, but here I am.
My dad wanted me to do a civic engineer, and you could tell by what Jack just said, I suck at math. So he was doing the math for both of us. We're in problems. DrapedandGold.com to learn more about the show. During the week, I'm doing this kind of this open beta sports writing comedy blog project. It's called Just the Sandwich. Learn more at justthesandwich.com. Sign up and get a post every week or so. We'll be back next week to talk about the good things about NXT. No Mercy is around the corner. A year after Bakersfield, it's moving on to Denver. I'm sorry, Bakersfield. So we'll be having coverage for that over at Wrestling Inc. But until that time, Jack Farmer, please say the words.
Do your best and be yourself.